last about, I want to say almost 2 months ago. Now, I played as a beta player on Battlefield 5. I just got the game. I got the deluxe edition, of course. And today we will be going through the range. And so I was like, well, we might as well see how this plays. So right now when you enter the range for practice, it's going to give you, motor trail and quite a few other things. So we're going to go with the motor trail and see what happens. I'm kind of curious of how this even works, but we'll figure it out.
This is the motor range.
A land vehicle may be able to turn the tide in a battle, so it is here that you can get a feel for... Enter a vehicle and proceed to the starting area. Then targets will appear and a countdown will begin. The goal of this exercise is to run over the targets with your vehicle. As you run over the targets, new targets will appear further down the road, and time will be added to the countdown.
Now I gotta admit, this is definitely some realistic driving. The acceleration is accurate, the chase camera is interesting, and we'll try it in a different mode here. Ooh, that's a new mode. It's definitely sensitive going up hills. I would definitely say the chase camera is a little easier to steer the thing with. But it kind of all depends on your playing. I mean, if you play a racing game, I don't think you need the chase camera. Definitely sensitive on the brakes, not really hard acceleration. Not much resistance when you hit things though. Kind of going off the trail here to see what it can take beating wise, and it can kind of do its own thing here. Pretty interesting actually. If you let off the gas, I noticed that it's got definitely a sharper turn, but I think it's definitely interesting. Ooh, alright, that's new. Now I notice there's a timer up at the top, so I'm guessing after a few seconds and whatnot, that after the time runs out, that you don't get, I'm guessing you don't get enough characters, that you don't get enough time, and then once you keep missing characters or it takes more time, then eventually it'll be up. So I'm sure there's people out there with a lot higher score than I have, and are doing better. I'm just kind of experimenting with what it can and can't do. I kind of want to show y'all what it can and can't do. That's what we're all interested in. I noticed you can't really drift something. I've tried quite a few times here. It's not going to really happen. It cuts a little too sharp. And it's definitely, when you take a jump or something, I wouldn't recommend cutting the wheel hard or anything, because it seems to be very grippy. But not a bad recovery actually. So maybe don't use the brakes if you're coming down a hill or something. I would recommend actually just gently tapping the gas. It seems to have a little more control than anything else. So oopsie. Yeah, we're getting there, boss man. It's actually pretty realistic. You can hear the gears shifting. And you can see the hands move. So I'm gonna kind of just let the timer run out on this one.
And halt! That was your last ticket.
Definitely interesting. Alright. And it looks like you can go to different little spots all over here. Guessing that's ammunition. We're gonna go to the shooting trial next. Probably gonna do horrible, but... Alright, you flip that.
Welcome to the shooting range, soldiers. Here, you will be able to try out a variety of weaponry and get a feel for how they handle.
Now show us what you've got.
Prepare for the first wave. It will begin on my mark.
Guessing you come to here.
Remember, only headshots will give you more tickets. Cease fire. Looks like we have quite a variety of talent. Let's move on to something a bit grander, shall we?
That was an assault rifle. This is a
All
light
right,
machine gun.
ladies and gentlemen, here comes another one.
They're definitely not all that accurate, but if you give it time, it seems to be that they seem to be right on par.
Well, well, you're not as green as I expected. I think we may have a chance of winning this thing after all. Let's move on to something slightly more refined. Get ready for the next wave.
I noticed that with every reload you have to pull out of the scope, but I wouldn't be complaining.
Not bad, troops. Not bad.
Righty-ho.
Looks like you're ready for a little more of a challenge. Prepare to pop off the enemy as they pop up in various locations. Get ready. Another wave will begin soon. What was that? Some kind of joke? Who painted the bomb?
Interesting. And with this, it's very interesting because it expects you to move to different places as time goes on, I see. Now, a lot of this, isn't like the motorcade one where it's on a timer. But
Nice work.
it gives you a
Now we're
handle
cooking
of
with gas.
all the...
All right, enough of that. Here's how the next waves will work. When a wave begins, your tickets will begin to count down. For every bob you dispose of, you will score points. For every headshot, you will score points, as well as gain more tickets.
Supply depots.
Will resupply your ammo during the rounds. Utilize them when needed. Once your tickets run out, you will no longer be able to score any more points, and your time in the shooting range will be over. Always try to set a new personal best score in the range. The skills you hone here will pay dividends on the battlefield.
The pistol doesn't seem to be that accurate anymore far away, but at the same time I think it's kind of has its own little usefulness.
Hold fire.
Okay. Interesting.
Prepare for the next wave.
Now I noticed with these ones, it's kind of, alright, so it's kind of harder to, I would say, nail a target. The bullet definitely has drop, like all Battlefield. This is not Call of Duty. There will be drop.
Smoked 'em if you had 'em.
But if you keep pulling the trigger, you know, expect if you're aiming down the scope.
Make ready for the next wave, soldiers.
Every time you're gonna do that, make sure that you at least back out the scope, because if not, every time you're gonna have to manually reload. Yeah, the pistols are definitely not accurate far away. Kinda gonna go try. So, knifing doesn't work either, it seems to be. But, I mean, to be honest with you, in multiplayer we all know that, I mean, accuracy, as long as you're hitting the person that you're shooting at,
The wave is complete.
I don't think it's gonna make that big of a difference.
Get ready for the next wave.
That's a med kit. L1 seems to be the but if you notice, when you pull down, then you're gonna pull the trigger, then it'll reload and go back down the scope. So I guess honestly, and all in all, yeah, you know, it would be quicker. To pull out of the scope. Excuse me. I zoned out there for a second.
Fingers off the triggers, troops. Prepare yourselves. Another wave will begin soon.
Jeez. How many waves are there? I'm kind of wanting to quit now. I think I'm just going to let the timer run out on this one and just, you know, let it have basic essentiality that, you know, yeah, it is what it is. Not aiming down the scope with LMG is definitely not going to be helpful. It seems to have a lot of kick. And if you notice, I mean, I'm pretty much within meters away and it's not gonna do much. But I mean, I think we all kind of expect that.
Cease fire, soldiers. That was your last ticket.
Interesting. And then it says open range, which I'm not quite sure what that is, but we are going to find out.
Welcome, soldiers.
By now, I hope you feel more comfortable with all the tools available to you. Here you will be able to gain more experience and practice at your own pace.
Okay.
Do so at your leisure and use any equipment you find in the area.
Ah, tanks. Now that would be helpful. Not really sure how these work. Interesting. You seem to have a machine gun, as well as your heavy artillery. You have fixing, and you've obviously got smoke. The downside is these tanks don't exactly aim down. Now, it doesn't seem to be that you can quite aim down that well when you're not down the scope and inside the tank, but it seems to be that you can get pretty good accuracy with that. And let's see, that's the machine gun, so not too bad. Easy to hop out of. So there's the shooting practice. So there's your tanks. There's your airplanes. I'm gonna kind of take this Jeep to get over to the tanks a little faster here. So those fuel tanks actually explode. Interesting. Alright. And then press to enter vehicle. Airplanes definitely handle a lot better than in Battlefield 1. Now let's go inside the cockpit. So if you notice, you can actually keep track of your RPMs and everything right in there as you accelerate and de-accelerate in the cockpit, but you get no zoom down when you are flying. It's not really all controlled by one stick. And it seems to be out of ammo. Now, I don't know if you can land these or not, but we're sure going to try. Just as a little social experiment here. And then we'll see if we can't dump ourselves in a multiplayer battle. So when you wreck a plane, you can definitely jump out of them. So it seems to me you can move the target. As you can see, I am definitely aiming at the head, and that is body shots. Oop, headshot. So the damage explosion is reduced in prone, so I did not know that. So that is definitely a good to know fact. but I would definitely recommend doing something like this. They have a lot of different practices, it seems. That was target practice, where it moves and whatnot, and seems to be angle practice. I'm not entirely sure all of what that is. So anyways, we are definitely going to quit this now. So it seems to be the basics are still pretty well laid out, like when I played the beta. I have to admit, it kind of got in my feelings when it first started, but I think that's with everything. But the mechanics of the game is definitely pretty good, and the graphics seem amazing. Now, granted, I have yet to see this in 4K, as I do not have a 4K TV yet, which I definitely will have soon, hopefully within the next week. But I mean, even without it, the graphics are absolutely amazing. There's definitely improvements. Seems to be a few catches there, kind of like when that airplane crashed, you were still able to get out of it. But I mean, the customization for these guys, I've already customized some of mine. But I mean, even from, you know, being appearances to the amount of characters they have is amazing. I mean, they have males, they have females, you know, whatever you would want to play, it's there. And I think that's very fair, because now it's, you know, both genders have a chance to pick when they're playing on the battlefield, which I think is absolutely fair. So, I'm actually going to see what the war stories look like. So you have 1942, North America, Norway, Province, Rhineland, and My Country Calling. So they give you 1, 2, 3, 4, it seems, storylines. I'm sure as it'll go on, just like Battlefield 1, they'll include more and more stuff as it goes on. And of course, you know, they have multiplayer. And they have Conquest. They have Conquest Core, Domination, Frontline Small. So it definitely seems to be interesting. And they have Combined Arms, which I would have to look up what that is. I'm not exactly 100% sure what that is. But yeah, so this is your introduction to Battlefield 5. If anybody wants me to do the war stories, shoot me a message or comment, and I'll do them. But see you on the battlefield.